Today we will discuss a short story by H. Munro, also known as Saki, as The Open Window. The Open Window by Saki is a short story that exemplifies the author's signature wit and irony. Now let's directly jump into the plot summary. The story is set in the English countryside where a man named Frampton Nuttall is visiting to undergo a nerve surgery or a nerve cure. Nuttall is suffering from a nervous condition and has been advised to rest in a calm environment. He visits the house of Mrs. Sappleton, a local acquaintance, to present a letter of introduction from his sister. Before going into the main story, let us have a brief outlook of the characters in it. First is Frampton Nuttall, who is a nervous and somewhat timid man seeking a quiet retreat. Second important figure is Vera, Mrs. Sappleton's 15-year-old niece, who has a vivid imagination and a penchant for storytelling. And the third is Mrs. Sappleton, the lady of the house, who is introduced later into the story. Now let's jump into the story's main incident. As Nuttall waits for Mrs. Sappleton, Vera, the niece, engages him in conversation. She is described as self-possessed and observant. Vera inquires about Nuttall's knowledge of the area and the people he is visiting. Nuttall admits he knows little, prompting Vera to tell him a tragic story to pass the time. Vera tells Nuttall that 3 years ago Mrs. Sappleton's husband and 2 younger brothers were hunting and never returned. According to Vera, the men were caught in a treacherous bog and perished. Mrs. Sappleton, however, keeps the French windows open, hoping that one day they will return as they always did at dusk. Mrs. Sappleton enters the room and apologizes for her tardiness. She speaks cheerfully about the open window, explaining she is expecting her husband and brothers back any moment from their day's hunting. Nuttall, already unnerved by Vera's story, is disconcerted by Mrs. Sappleton's apparent denial of reality. As they talk, Mrs. Sappleton suddenly brightens and exclaims that her husband and brothers are returning. Nuttall turns to see 3 figures approaching the house through the open window, exactly as Vera described. Overwhelmed with terror, believing them to be as ghosts, Nuttall hastily leaves the house. After Nuttall's departure, Vera explains to her returning relatives that Nuttall ran away because of fear of dogs, triggered by a traumatic experience he had in India. Vera's talent for creating spontaneous and convincing stories is revealed, leaving the readers to realize that both tales she told were fabrications and untrue. With this, the story comes to an end. Now let's discuss the themes and analysis of the story. The first important theme is deception and storytelling. Vera, who is the niece, her ability to fabricate detailed and believable stories highlights themes of deception and the power of storytelling. The second important theme is reality versus imagination. The story contrasts Nuttall's rational expectations with the imaginative and deceptive narrative spun by Vera, questioning what is real and what is fiction. And the third important theme is irony. The dramatic irony in Nuttall's belief in Vera's story and his reaction to the ghosts is central to the humor and impact of the story. The open window showcases Saki's skill in delivering a narrative that is both humorous and dark, with a twist ending that leaves readers contemplating the nature of truth and the art of storytelling.